Amongst many words I would use to describe myself, one of them would have to be collector. I enjoy collecting things, whether that be books, records, typewriters, old iPods, but especially film cameras. Now, the reason I like to do these things is not because I have this obsessive desire to drown in material goods. It's just because I find so many of these different things interesting, whether it's the historical implication of the system or interfacing with how people used to interface and see the world. I just find that compelling. There's a lot more of like a esoteric rationale behind it, and I also understand that in trying to communicate that, I might just be convincing myself that it isn't the aforementioned obsessive compulsion to drown in material goods. Regardless, I find myself in the position of owning a lot of stuff. And while over the years I've tried to trim down my various collections, I always feel like I'm going to have a lot of film cameras just because I work on them. The end of last year, I had a bit of a feeling of I don't want to have all of them. And I thought, well, let me start making a list. My list is probably going to be different from everyone else's list who's watching. There might be some overlap. There might be a camera I mentioned. You're like, oh, that is a good camera to hold on to. But you might be watching this and be like, why don't you want to keep blah, blah, blah? Why won't you keep blah, blah, blah? And the fact of the matter is, it's a personal thing. This is my list of cameras I want to keep in 2025. So if you feel so inclined, share your list down below. I'd love to hear what cameras you are looking to either buy or hold on to in this upcoming year. But as this is my video and I want to try to keep the runtime down a little bit, let's crack into the list. We're going to go into the most meaty of the categories, which is the 35mm SLR cameras. Starting off, we have the Pentax K1000. That's kind of a shoe-in. It's my dad's old camera, sentimental value. But beyond that, it's one of the first cameras I learned how to work on. I might not shoot with it all of the time, but I know that if I ever need it, it will always be there. So that peace of mind is really nice and something I want to hold on to. While we're on the sentimental cameras, there's the Canon EOS 850, which is my mom's old camera. In spite of it just being my mom's old camera, I just think it's a lot of fun to shoot with. EF lens mount, so can't really go wrong there. Then we have the Pentax Spotmatic SP. This one in particular is one that I just put new leather on. I think it looks really cool. I also bought it from the original owner. He got it, of course, when he was stationed in Vietnam. I spoke about it recently, but it's in really good condition, all things considered, and it's just nice to have a Spotmatic on hand. Pairing that with the Pentax MXM, which I also bought from that same guy. And the MXM is interesting because it is in the process of breaking. Every time I shoot with it, I can hear the little gear beginning to fail. It's lightweight, easy to use, takes the K-mount lens, also has autofocus capabilities, but it's just a simple little camera. Next up, we have the Pentax LX. I'm putting this one on the list because there's no way I will ever be able to find one for as cheap as I got the one that I got. For that reason alone, I'm definitely holding on to it, but check out my review for it. I cannot say enough kind things about this thing. It is a wonderful experience to shoot with. Then we have the Nikon F3, which is probably one of, if not sometimes, my favorite 35mm camera out there. It is phenomenal. Love it. The next one is the Pentax PC35AF. My favorite point-and-shoot camera. Compact, sturdy, reliable. Canon Demi 17. That one I'm actually loaning out to somebody at the moment. It has reshaped my mind on half-frame photography as a whole. Now, this doesn't work at all. I said 35mm SLRs. The last two were not SLRs at all. 35mm cameras, then. Just kind of lump them together there. Hopefully no one caught that. Knowing you guys, you probably caught that. Backspace on that comment a little bit. Anyway, 35mm cameras. The Demi 17. Adorable, super good-looking camera. A lot of fun to use, great optics, all of those things. And then the Asahi Flex. I'm going to hold on to that one because I just think it's fascinating. Not only is it really fun to shoot with, but it's also one of the best looking cameras, I think, just for a shelf. And I kind of like the idea of something that looks so good on display, but then also is pretty easy to use. So easy with a massive asterisk of it's very old and the advance is horrid. Then there's two potentials on this list. There's an upcoming panoramic camera that I'm working on. If I can get it to work, the likelihood that I can then try to sell it is next to zero. Stay tuned for that one. Spoiler alert. And then the next one that's a potential that the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning to, I'm definitely going to keep it, is an Olympus camera that I will have a review out about soon. There's not as much variety in the branding as I'm sure a lot of you guys would suspect, but these are just cameras that I really like, and for one reason or another, as listed, I have a hard time seeing myself move on from. But let's get into the medium formats. This is a much smaller portion of the list because I really only have a couple. The ones I'm going to keep, it's going to be pretty much the ones I have. We got, of course, the Mamiya C330. I absolutely love that camera. It's the first camera that I bought myself, so it still works really well. It's a lot of fun to use. I might even look into getting a different lens for it. And then, of course, the Yashica mat right there. It's kind of a newcomer to the channel, but quickly has won over my heart. And I've just been shooting film through it consistently since I've gotten it. So then, of course, the Bronica. That one is kind of in the same category as the LX. There's just no way I'm going to get a Bronica for as cheap as I got that one. But past that, I love so much about that camera. Its quirks, its imperfections, it makes this entirely unique experience of shooting with it. And for that reason, and for the reason that there's just so much more of the world that I want to capture with that camera, I'm definitely not going to be moving on from it anytime soon. And that brings us on to the last one, which is the Kiev 60, which is a film camera I often forget that I own. I don't really talk about it all that much, but it's very fun. Videos about it, I want to talk about it more, so definitely holding on to that for the time being. We have a miscellaneous category here. This is just kind of the catch-all for random cameras that don't really fit into the previous groups that I'm going to hold on to. Starting off the Instax Mini 9. It's like the only instant camera that I've just had consistent and fun results with, so definitely not getting rid of that. The Brownie Hawkeye. This is another one of the sentimental cameras. I believe it's my grandma's camera. Might be my mom's old camera, but I think it was my grandma's. It looks great on a shelf. It still works. I have some 620 film, and there's some projects I'd like to do with it, but for the time being, it just looks nice on the shelf. Then finally, the Pentax Auto 110. I don't shoot 110 film as much. If I ever do, I only want to shoot it through the Pentax Auto 110 because I have a whole host of lenses for it. It's super fun to carry around, super compact. The quality of film that I have right now is like old expired Western Family 200, which I'm pretty sure is like Kodak 200. It's terrible, but I love it so much. Like the detail is like really granular and crisp. The colors are all kind of faded in a very unique way that you're not going to get that result out of anything else. Definitely holding on to the Auto 110 for that reason, because I have a whole lot of that 110 film that I can't wait to shoot through. So that is the totality of my list of cameras I'm going to hold on to. Towards the end of the year, we'll do a little catch up, see where I'm at in terms of selling and offloading my massive inventory here, because you don't need all the stuff. Cameras are not going to make you happy. They could, but they probably won't. If you have a camera you enjoy using and you can get consistent results out of it, that's all that matters. And again, I'd love to hear what you have on your list, so leave a comment down below. Let me know. What cameras bring you joy? What cameras you never want to get rid of? What cameras do you want to try to get this year? I'd love to hear that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it as always. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content, and I will catch you on the next one.